Hi everyone, I'm Joe Higgins, and with me today is Nathan Dean, the president and historian of the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, and we are once again here to talk about our newest inductees, which you'll have a ceremony, it was a week before game one, so in August?
It'll be August, the night before the triple game.
Night before.
Yep.
So let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
You start out with the legacy inductee, which you talked about before, was just talking about these old school, from literally the old schools.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go ahead and open up our first one.
Yeah, so first one is Bob Pack. Bob is a 1954 graduate from Nelsonville High School. He was part of the 51 to 52 team that went to the state championship, and they were the runner-up. He was a starter on that team. Going through his career, I found he was 3 years on varsity, the basketball team, and he was 6 points away from 1,000 points. So nearly 1,000 points in 3 years of varsity is incredible. And then when you look at his senior year, especially, they had, like, I have all the stats listed, and he only had 4 of the 20-odd games that they played that year that he didn't score at least 20 points.
Wow.
And I know at least one of those games that he didn't score 20 points, he fouled out in. And so, could have been more than that.
Would have got those extra 6.
Would have got those extra 6, absolutely. He did have a 40-point career high game against Wellston his senior year, and he actually ended up with nearly 500 points alone just in that season. So he was kind of the all-around, do-it-himself type of guy. About a 6'2" presence underneath, and could really do it all. But he also was on the football team, and was an all-SCOAL selection there. He was an all-SCO selection in basketball, first team all-district, and then he was an all-state basketball selection as well.
So pretty worthy inductee into your legacy for sure from the Nelsonville High School class of 1954. Congratulations to Bob Pack. Let's turn our attention now to the professionals, which is a relatively new category, but it's a great category to have for the Hall of Fame. When you have student athletes who come from here that go on to do it at the highest level, I love that you guys are including this. And this is a name that baseball people in Nelsonville certainly know.
So the next person is Estel Crabtree. He goes in on our professional plaque. So we did some looking. We knew that he grew up in Scioto County. All we ever found was it said he grew up in Crabtree, Ohio, which, ironic. But come to find out, he transferred to Carbon Hill, or moved to Hocking County, then ended up going to Carbon Hill High School. So, our first Carbon Hillian going in is pretty cool. And so he then, he played a lot of in the minor leagues. He, bounced between major and minor his whole career, basically. But he ended up having a 13-year span of career doing that. He played for the Cincinnati Reds. He played for the St. Louis Cardinals. He had a career batting average of .281. Like, he did a lot, and he wanted to come back and kind of get things going in our area. And that's why when we have the old timers game and things like that, like, he was instrumental in that. And he is remembered for, I think, that portion of it, but now we can actually go through and access everything else that he did on the professional level, and what he did, where he played, and what he cared about. So
you got some stats here, some numbers here. 489 games played. That's in the majors.
Yep.
174 runs scored in those 489. That's a pretty good clip.
Yeah, absolutely.
The batting average of .281, 400 hits, 396 here. But playing for the Reds and Cardinals. But you mentioned before we were talking that it wasn't all in the majors, his career. He had a pretty interesting journey there to be able to do what he did.
Yeah, so he actually started in the major leagues in 1929 to about 1933. And from 34 to 41, he was in the minors. So, like, a lot of people, they go from the major leagues and they're down in the minors for 9 years. You might not ever see him again.
Coming back.
Well, he popped back up with the St. Louis Cardinals in 1941 and 1942 and played his 2 final years there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was just, kind of inspiring, just like, the never give up, go after what you want. And I think he's kind of perfect for that, to be on our Hall of Fame, or in our Hall of Fame, so kids can understand, like, you might have setbacks, but you got to keep pushing, you got to keep working, and I think he's a good role model for not just baseball players, but every athlete in our school system.
So for people in town that have went over to Crabtree Field and kind of wondered, well, now you got a little bit more on who this man was and why it's called Crabtree Field in general. That's an amazing career. Yep. Let's turn our attention now to your coach going in this year, and she did a lot with a small amount of time that she was head coach.
Correct.
But she was a teacher in the school district. She was the head coaches we're going to talk about. She was athletic director for a time. Now she's principal over at Tri-County Career Center and doing a great job. A little biased there myself. Yeah. Go ahead. I'll let you, from the class of 99.
Yeah, class 99, Amanda Wiseman, Amanda Dalton, as she was known as growing up. And you're right, it wasn't this long coaching tenure, but what she did is she came in right after the all-time leading scorer had just graduated. So she took over that next year, and those first few years were rough. They didn't win a lot of games. But after that, she had a core young group that she brought in, and they built a culture, and they kind of turned it back into a winning program from those first early years. Her last 2 years, they actually went 38-10. They won the 2015 district championship, first and still the only district championship for boys and girls in basketball. It's just extremely impressive. She also coached two individuals. One we'll talk about later was Madison Davis, 1,000-point scorer. The other one we'll talk, or that I can mention here, is Jesse Addis, who ended up becoming the new all-time leading scorer in that short amount of time. You don't see a lot of all-time leading scorer graduate. 5 or 6 years later, another one coming along. So it was really impressive just to kind of see how she was able to build and how she was able to take that program from where it was. And by the time she was done, she left it, cupboard full. Like, this is who we want to be. That next year, they ended up winning the TVC, and it was all because of the way that she built that program, the culture that she instilled. And then just to go into it, like you said, she was a teacher, administrator, athletic director. She was also an athlete for us, a student athlete. So, two-time academic All-TVC. She was first-team All-TVC her senior year, second-team All-District, and honorable mention All-State. She also led her team in scoring that year with nearly 15 points per game.
Well, she loves ball. And
she
loves
loves
sports,
ball.
and she loves the student athletes, giving back and educational all the way across the board. So, again, to have that to your record of the school record of 21 wins in 2015.
Correct.
And then also to have still the only district title. That is amazing.
It's impressive. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
And just to throw into that, like all of her students or student athletes that she was able to coach, they can tell how much she cares not only about them but about the school system, just with the passion that she has, and that could be in any walk of life, her personal life, teaching, coaching, being the best administrator she can be. She's an asset to the Nelsonville community, and we're very happy to have her go into our Hall of Fame.
A real one, for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's look at our athletes, inductees, and starting with the class of 1993.
Yeah, so first one is Jeromy Sheets, class of 93. He was, big part of that 92 football team on that defense that only allowed 6 points a game the whole season. It was incredible defense. He was a part of that. The year before that, and I wasn't alive, but I've collected enough information. I've collected enough film. I can see watching the film of him in that Vinton County game, stripping the ball away and running a 55-yard touchdown to the end zone. You know what I mean? It's just something that kind of sticks out to you, and that was Jeromy. And so, part of that, he was first-team TVC. The team went 10-0, made the playoffs, and he had 150 career tackles and 65 solos. He was a very, very key part to that defense, along with the rest of that team. But I think what's going to look, what's cool to look at is he set 2 records that year that are still records this, as we sit here in 2026. So he has the most recovered fumbles in a game, and he had 2 of them in a game. He did that twice. He also had the most recovered fumbles in a season with 6, and that's still a record. And so, always around the ball, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, always there, always ready to make a play. And then he was also a first-team linebacker on the 1990s All-Decade team. So
on the football field, like almost a literal definition of ball hawk.
Yeah,
like he's going to find it,
yes.
He's going to go do it. But he was no slouch in the wrestling ring or wrestling mat either.
And wrestling is where I think he really excelled. And like I've said before, I love, as a football coach myself, I love wrestlers who play defense. They understand leverage. They understand how to get somebody to the ground. The grip alone. I mean, my hands have been hurt by many of my friends who are wrestlers. But just being able to hold on and, always, they're aggressive. They're never afraid of anything. And it's that mentality I think translates well over on the football field. But on the wrestling mat, he had 137 wins in his career. He's in the top 10 of most wins as of a Buckeye wrestler. we're looking at 4-time TVC champion, TVC Most Valuable Wrestler, a 3-time state qualifier, and then a 5th place. You're placed 5th in the state at the wrestling tournament, or at the OHSAA state wrestling meet. So, he killed it there. Looking at wrestling after high school, he actually went to college at Heidelberg. I went to Wilmington, so I'm familiar with Heidelberg. They were an OAC team, at least when I was there. So there, he 3 years in a row, he was the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd place in the OAC championships in wrestling. So he continued what he learned here, took that to the next level, and he became very successful there as well.
Just great career,
yes,
period.
Absolutely.
And then you also got there throwing baseball. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Just let me be a 3-year letter winner at the varsity level in baseball, too. Unbelievable. Talking about unbelievable, this next athlete from the class of 95, I mean, she's just extremely when you talk about athleticism, you could find that attached to this person's name.
Yeah, and I mean, we say it a lot. If you look up the term athlete, you're going to find this person's picture.
Yeah.
And this next one, class of 95, Jill Shafer. I've heard a lot about Jill every year. We talk about, what athletes could, pop up or who could get nominated. And finally, Jill was nominated this year. I know she'd been talked about before, but, someone nominated her.
Yep.
And as we start going through it, we're like, yeah, I mean, she's deserved it.
We'll put a quick pause on that and just let everybody know that that's how this works, the nomination process. So if there's somebody out there that you're like, well, how come this person's not in yet or whatever it might be, the nominations forms come out every spring.
January 1st.
January 1st. Yeah. So there you go. Like, get your nominations out there whenever you know of somebody.
Yep.
Please continue with Jill.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Not everybody realizes that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Jill, looking through it, 3-sport athlete again. So basketball, I think, is where she really shined. And so for basketball, she was an all-state selection, 1st team all-district, 1st team all-TVC. She was also the district player of the year in basketball for District 13. So that's incredible. Her junior year, she was also 1st team all-TVC, 3rd team all-district, and an honorable mention all-state. So, she just, like I said, she really shined on the floor. She was selected to play in 2 different all-star games as a senior. And, she just represented Nelsonville-York extremely well in both of those. She also played volleyball. She was honorable mention all-TVC. She was also honorable mention all-district back-to-back years and all-TVC academic for 2 years in a row. And I think that's another great part of that. You think a student athlete, you know what I mean? And she was that. She embodied that. And then on the track, she also killed it. She was part of, not a lot of distance runners or people like to run distance, but in the last couple of years we've put a couple in, and because they are some of our best. And so she was the TVC champion, her relay team in the 3,200 meter relay, TVC champions, and then she was 3rd place in district, which then qualified them to go to the regional track meet. And then her 1,600 meter relay team broke the school record. And so, just again, 3-sport athlete, 3-season athlete. Mm-hmm. When you are an athlete in our school system, you do it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're good at it.
Yep. So. I remember seeing the name up on the board in the gym forever for the track there for the record. Let's switch over to the class 2012, an athlete that you are pretty familiar with, that you benefited from.
Yes, big time. So the next one's Daniel Kline, class 2012. I apologize. That is he and I grew up together, played every sport together, and Daniel is by far one of the most just naturally gifted athletes that I've ever been around. I've said before, it helped he was 6'4", 185 pounds. He could jump out of the gym,
It helps.
And, it helps. And, there was always that a picture of a quarterback in the NFL. He's getting ready to throw the ball, but a defender goes by and he yanks his face mask to the left so he can't see. Yeah. And
it's okay.
All right. And underneath it would be like, oh, my top guy's down there somewhere. And that is how a good bit of that, a good bit of our connection on the field was Daniel's down there. Yep. If I put it in the area where he can go get it, he's going to go get it. And he was great at that. So, but
he just made everything look so easy.
He did.
And we're about to talk about all the everythings.
Exactly. And, he's got a full page of stuff here. And I may not get to everything, but I want to touch on a good bit of it. For basketball, he was honorable mentioned all-state, 3-time all-TVC selection, 1-time all-district, 4-year starter, nearly 1,000 points. He came in as a freshman and worked his way into that starting group by the end of the year and he took off from there. And so, I know the Kline name kind of, athlete, but a lot of it is basketball.
Yeah.
And Daniel carried that torch.
And he joins his sister Kim and his father Jay in the Hall of Fame. So that's awesome.
It was very cool. And so then transitioning over onto the track. So on the track, he has school when he graduated. For our top 10 leaderboard for our track, he had the second longest long jump at 20 feet 9¼ inches. Third fastest 4x2 relay. Third fastest 4x4. Fourth highest high jump at 6'2", and the sixth fastest 4x100 meter relay. And that was just in our school. When you look at it, everything that we've done in our school, and then you transition that over. In 2012, he was the high point scorer of the TVC track meet. He was a long jump champion, high jump champion, third place in the 100 meter, fourth place in the 400 meter. He then qualified for both the regional track meet for the high jump and the long jump. And so, you think, when I think Daniel, I think jump, because no matter what he did, you know what I mean? It was either on the track, it was in the gym, or it was on the field. He's jumping in one way or another, and he's going to go up with the ball, come down with the ball, or just jump higher and further.
Jump over everything, yes.
And then when you get to that football aspect, again, that's where, I benefited from it. He was a security blanket. He was no doubt, like, I'm going to this guy. In fact, my junior year, we're playing Athens out here, and the whole game, we knew they had a certain defender on Daniel. And a lot of the times they would shade the safety over. Well, the last drive, they had just went up, under a minute to go. The last drive, we look over, and that corner's not on the field. It's a completely different corner. I look at the sideline, I look at Daniel. We don't even have to really do much. We just kind of look at each other, and we know. And first play, I threw it deep to Daniel. He came down with it, a little underthrown. He went up and got it. The next play, we're in the huddle, and we look out, or we break, we go to the line, and same corner. I mean, that guy's off the field. Safety still shaded towards more the middle of the field. And so I was like, all right, we're taking our shot. And, Daniel's going to go up and get it. I trust him. I threw it up to him. He brought it down. We ended up winning that ball game in 2 plays, bang, bang. And that's what Daniel Kline can do for you, you know. About his awards and his stats, 2-time All-TVC, 2-time All-District, 2-time Special Mention All-State in football. Over 1,000 career receiving yards. So he's the highest, what we would call tight end or split end is what we used him with a lot, but he was a phenomenal blocker. I think it's one of the most underrated aspects of his game. He was a phenomenal blocker. But he was long, he was lanky, he was strong. He understood where he needed to be. But he's the highest tight end or split end in our receiving category. So when you look at his records at graduation, he had the most receiving touchdowns in a career. Right now, he's third behind Keegan Wilburn and Alec Thompson, who just
it's pretty
graduated.
Good company.
Yeah. Second most receiving yards in a career with 1,068 as a tight end. Second most receptions in a career with 70. Second most receiving touchdowns in a season. He had 8 of them twice. So great back-to-back years. And then fifth and seventh most receptions in a season with 34 and 32, and he had the third most receptions in a game. And so, he just, again, all-around athlete, jumper, go get it type of guy, and a security blanket for me. He made me look a lot better.
Thanks, Daniel.
I was fortunate to play with Daniel. So.
Just a phenomenal athlete, which gives us to another phenomenal athlete. You mentioned her a little bit earlier from the class 2015. Got to be dubbed Miss 1000.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great nickname to give her. Maybe put it right there on her plaque.
There you go.
Miss 1000. And so, the next one is Madison Davis, now Madison Losey. She was a graduate of 2015, and so something special here with the run of these next 3.
Yeah.
So class of 2015, so volleyball and basketball were big for her. In volleyball, she was 1,000 kills, basketball, 1,000 points. I'd have to check, but I'm not sure. We have maybe one person.
Yeah.
Maybe one person in our school history might also have that. And so that's special in its own right. So back-to-back, 2013, 2014, first team All-TVC, 2013, 2014, first team All-District, and then District Player of the Year both years as well. She was also a second team All-State selection and a 4-year starter in volleyball. And so she was just, a force in the middle. She was tall, she was strong, she was athletic. Another one that you might think, jump.
Yep.
Because that's what she did, you know what I mean? And so she, great asset to that volleyball team. And, it kind of carried right over into basketball season.
Yes, it did.
And I was fortunate enough to where, so Madison and my sister were really close friends growing up. They played sports together. So a lot of the time I was at their games. So I got to watch her grow as, a child in our, school system to, what she became at the high school. And it was just really cool to see her put all that together. And so in basketball, 2-time first team all TVC, 2-time first team all district. She was co-district player of the year her senior year. And she was a part of the district championship basketball team like we had talked about in 2015. And again, 4-year starter, 1,000 career points. Miss 1,000. Because, let's add another one on. She then went to college at Urbana University. 4-year varsity letterman at the college level. First team all-conference her senior year. Academic All-American her senior year. 1,000 kills.
1,000 kills again.
So again, Miss 1,000 might be very appropriate to label her in our Hall of Fame.
Just, again, athletic. You mentioned it, the ability to jump, the power.
Yeah.
And she used it in every aspect.
Yes, she
and
did.
So it was a lot of fun to watch for sure. Another young man who was fun to watch in his I-8A for sure, again from the 2015 class.
Yeah, so another 2015 class coming in. Dakota Mays, and he is going. A lot of people hear the word Mays and they think wrestling, and it's exactly
That's
where
right.
I'm going. He was, he was a very good football player for us. Linebacker, again, wrestler. It's a defender. First team all TVC. He was a captain his senior year. He also had 15 catches, nearly 400 yards receiving. But on defense, he had 95 tackles his senior year, and he did really well as a senior linebacker for us. Then, you flip over to wrestling. Career record of 165 and 17. 160-pound state champion. He's the Nelsonville-York High School's only 4-time state placer.
Yeah.
And so as a freshman, he placed 6th. As a sophomore, 7th. As a junior, 4th. And then he finally capped it off with that state championship, the 160-pound weight class.
That's the way to do it.
In 2015.
That's the way to do it.
Following in his brother's footsteps. I know when his brother came in to the Hall of Fame, he was like, hey, I'm excited to be here. I'll be here in a couple years when my brother gets in, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you look at that state champion and you're like, yeah, he's one of the best. He's going in. So Dakota, great athlete. He was a 3-time district champion, 3-time TVC champion, and the only reason he wasn't a 4-time TVC champion is because he was injured his junior year, so he had to miss that meet, or else he would have been a 4-time TVC champion.
So injured the year that he ended up finishing 4th in the state?
In the state. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So, I guess we can let him off with it because he won the state the next year. But.
Yeah. Very good. But you mentioned him on the football field too, and some impressive numbers there too, because just again it translates.
Yes, exactly. And like I said, on the defensive side of the ball, just again always around the ball. He was a middle linebacker, kind of the leader of the defense, and just on the offensive side of the ball, he's a strong, aggressive blocker. Kind of played that more of an undersized tight end, but played that end role for us. And I've said it before. That year, the quarterback had 1,100 to 1,200 yards passing total. Well, he had about 300 of them, and this next person we're going to talk about had the rest.
So great segue, because we have talked about jumping and we have talked about strength. There's nobody that embodies speeds more than Speedy.
No, there is not.
From the class of 2015 once again.
Yeah, so again, another 2015 grad. This is the first time we've brought in 3 people from the same graduating class in the same year. They're all also in their first year of eligibility. I think that speaks a lot.
Wow.
And, you look at just everything that Jeromy Warren was able to do, and it's funny. We've had a lot of 1,000-yard running backs go in. Mm-hmm. This is the first year we're putting in a 1,000-yard receiver, and we're actually doing it twice. Yep. So Jeromy was the all-time leading receiver here at Nelsonville-York by the time he graduated. He had 1,517 yards. Right now he's second to Keegan Wilburn. So he's still second. But, look, just stat-wise, he set records, like I said, most yards in a career. He had most yards in a season with 964. So he had nearly 1,000 yards as a senior.
One season.
Most receiving touchdowns in a season with 11. He's has the highest yards per reception in a season, averaged 27.5 yards a catch.
That's mad numbers. Yeah. That's insane.
He also has the most receiving yards in a game with 255 in that game, and this contributes to that number right above it. 5 catches, 255 yards, 3 touchdowns in that game alone. Might be one of the most impressive receiving games in the area of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
He's got a lot here also where he was second or third or fourth in the category. But I think the most important thing and the most impressive thing to look at, 5 things he was listed as holding the record or breaking the record. 4 of them he still has the record.
Still got them.
And so, like I said, the only one that he doesn't have on the offensive side of the ball still got broken by Keegan Wilburn. Defensive side of the ball, he set records for most pass breakups in a game with 35, most forced fumbles in a career with 7, most PBUs in a season with 12. He did that twice. He still has the record for most pass breakups in a career. That was actually tied this year by one of our senior athletes that graduated. But always around the ball, just he had a knack for it. He's just such a natural athlete and worked one of the hardest workers. Just on the football field, on the basketball court, on the track, whatever he did, he was one of the hardest workers around. Great leader. He's still a leader in his personal life, his professional life, and here he actually coaches with us still on our coaching staff.
I was going to mention that he's one of the ones that are giving back.
Exactly. So. And, looking at what the awards that he won as a football player, he was a 2014 TVC Ohio Defensive Player of the Year. That is the same year that Joe Burrow, both Lewermans, and Williams were all on that offense for the Athens Bulldogs. So the fact that he had to go up against that and was still, just the most dominant defender in the league is extremely impressive.
That's impressive, yes, it is.
He was a 2-time first-team All-TVC, 2-time first-team All-District. His senior year, he was a third-team All-State selection. His junior year, he was honorable mentioned All-State. So just in general, like Jeromy Warren, one of the best football players to come through our program. And
a great young man to boot, for sure.
Great young man. And I even talked about his track, what he did on the track yet.
The speed.
Yeah, the speed. Yeah, he goes by Speedy his entire life.
Yeah.
Well, he used it on the track.
Yes, he did.
His senior year, 3rd in the TVC in the 4x2, 4th in the 400. He was also 8th in the 4x8 one year and 7th in the 4x4 one year. And then in our top 10 record book, for our school, 2nd fastest 4x8 relay, 2nd fastest 4x2, 3rd fastest 400, 4th fastest 4x4, and 5th fastest 4x1. He was just such an integral part to every team that he was a part of.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Again, you mentioned all the accolades, but I'll just say what a great young man he is.
Extremely.
Again, and that he's given back to the football team as it is. But a great class once again. This class should be very proud to be going in with each other as far as the amount of and the abilities that these players have. And so it looks like opening night will be the 21st, so the ceremony should be on August 20th.
Exactly. It'll be the night before. We'll get more information out closer to the date on timing and ticket prices and whatnot. But, I got a lot of work to do before that ceremony gets going on. But we're really excited to have this class and, have it now be public so people can congratulate them.
Yep.
And I've talked to every single one of them, and they're all excited, and they're really happy to be going in and being recognized for what they did to leave their mark on Nelsonville-York athletic history.
You certainly have. So want to thank Nathan Dean. Thank you again for coming in and giving us the rundown of the newest inductees. And again, make sure that you get over here to the school on the 20th, August 20th. More details will be released on your Facebook page.
Yep, we'll be posting it on Facebook and probably a lot of word of mouth, but definitely will be listed on our Facebook page, Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame Facebook page.
All right. Thank you again, and congratulations to all the new inductees. Yep.